Okay, welcome to the Lovecraft Easing podcast. You didn't do your normal intro there, Pete.
You told me not to.
I did not. F. Paul Wilson is our guest today. Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Except I think I'm about to sneeze on the show. Why don't you guys let's do our regular introductions and then talk to Paul. I'm Mike Davis, Lovecraft Easing. Pete.
Pete Rollick, man about town.
You write too, don't you?
I put words on a page and people pay them for me. I'm not sure I would call it writing.
Okay, Rick, what about you?
Rick Lay, writer.
See, he goes straight for it.
Yeah, but Rick's better than I am.
And Tim, do you want to say something about yourself?
Tim Davis, Patreon, and privileged and overwhelmed to say dear friend of Scott Thomas.
Oh yeah, Scott's a great guy, really is. Okay, Paul, I cannot imagine that anyone listening to this or watching this doesn't know who you are, really, but pretend there's somebody out there who doesn't. Can you introduce yourself real quick?
F. Paul Wilson. I've been writing science fiction, horror, and thrillers since, well, I sold my first story in 1970. So it's been a while. I'm getting close to 50 years of doing this.
Well, your latest books, I think, was something called the Ice Sequence. Is that right?
That is true.
Okay.
It's now become the Ice Trilogy, since I figure 3 books is a good way to leave it for now.
All right. Well, I have not, those are on my to be read pile, but I haven't gotten to them yet. It seems like a really intriguing premise to me. Can you talk about those for a sec?
Well, it started off with Panacea, which is a search for the universal cure. And I just wrote it. It had been cooking for years and years and years, but with the Repairman Jack series, having to hand one in every fall, I just couldn't get around to it. And when I stopped the Repairman Jack series, I had time. And so I wrote it, and it's not a bad thing to have a book gestate for that long, because it's pretty much ready to go. So it just came out, and I sent it in, and they liked it a lot, and especially Tom Doherty liked it a lot. And so they said, do another one. And so all of a sudden it became, the start of a series. And the ICE stands for Intrusive Cosmic Entities. And it's part of the secret history. It takes place parallel to the Repairman Jack novels. And I just published the 3rd one, and the last one for a while at least, last week, the Void Protocol. So it's Panacea, the God Gene, and the Void Protocol. And it follows 2 characters, Rick, who is an ex-CIA fellow who was drummed out for not cooperating, and Laura Fanning, who is a medical examiner. And they get teamed up to go search for this panacea by a very rich guy who's sick. He wants to be cured. And that's the way everything starts.
Well, you mentioned the secret history of the world. When I first came across that, it seemed so overwhelming even to read them all. And can't imagine how much work and thought went into writing them all. Can you explain, for those who don't know, what's the secret history of the world?
Well, it just sort of developed. The Keep would be like the earliest piece I did for it. And the Keep was always a standalone in my head. And so was the Tomb. And so was the Touch. Then they asked me to do a sequel to the Keep. And all of a sudden I realized I could connect all those books. And so I began connecting them in Reborn and Reprisal and then Night World. And then I thought that was it. And then in 1998, I was talked into doing another, or backed into actually doing another Repairman Jack novel because I didn't want to do a series. And then I realized everything fits together. And so I decided I'd start making everything part of a much larger whole where characters cross over, events cross over, and so everything sort of fits together. And it's a lot of fun to do. Trouble is keeping all the balls in the air when you're writing a new piece that goes in there.
I'm sure. You know, and at the same time, someone can read the Repairman Jack novels, and you don't have to read, for example, the Ice trilogy or any of the other books to enjoy those. I mean,
No, I purposely the Ice. There are all sorts of Easter eggs in the Ice trilogy, but there's totally unrelated. If you don't know the other books, it doesn't matter at all. They seem to stand alone. So that's the ideal. The ideal thing is to have people able to do what you said. Come to the books and accept them as a whole. But you know, with the Repairman Jack series, as it got on, the backstory started coming further and further toward the front, and I had to finally end it. But toward the end of the series, a lot of stuff is very much dependent on what came before.
and as a result of deciding to make this into a series, I believe you had to heavily re-edit Night World, right?
Oh, definitely.
Or revise, I should say, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I cut 10,000 words from it, and it wound up being 10,000 words longer. So there was 20,000 new words in there because I had added all these characters into the stories, and I had to account for them somehow. So it was a major rewrite, but I think it works. It works fine with the series, and that's the end. I don't go beyond that. I pretty much destroy human civilization at the end of Night World, and I'm not really into post-apocalyptic type of fiction, so I'm just going to leave that as the end.
Speaking of the end of things, I kind of got lucky. I read the Repairman Jack series after 1998. So, but you know, I imagine the Keep was, or excuse me, the Tomb was published in 1984, right?
Correct.
And so for about what 14 years there, the readers didn't know if Jack was going to live or die.
Well,
Hanging out in that apartment for quite a while.
I brought him back in some short stories.
Oh, okay. All right.
For the World Fantasy Convention. I think it was 1990, 1991. The one Bob Weinberg ran and had me as a guest. Phyllis Weinberg, begged me just to do a story just for the program book with Jack in it. So I did it, and I liked going back to him. So I did a few more short stories. I did one for Ed Gorman. They appeared now and again, but I really wasn't going to do a series.
Yeah. Well, I remember now reading the short stories. It's been a long time, and I didn't really associate them at the time. I think I might have even read The Tomb after those. So I just can't remember. It's been quite a while. One of our panelists is, a couple of our panelists are not here today. One of them is Kelly Young, and he says, very sorry to be missing Paul today. Please let him know that I really loved Wardenclyffe, and maybe ask his thoughts on the similarities between Repairman Jack and Jack Reacher.
They're really not alike. Jack Reacher is what, 6'6"?
Yeah, something
A
like that.
really imposing figure, and Jack's like 5'11". Reacher is still connected very much to the military and to the government, whereas Jack spends his life hiding from the government. They really, it's a totally different aesthetic between the two books. Jack's method is more, lets you and him fight. And Reacher is the kind that just goes in there and beats everybody up.
Right.
So they both have the same first name, but that's basically that's where the similarities end.
Well, people have posed that comment to me before. Is this the first time you've been asked this question, or have you been asked before?
Oh, a couple of times.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Not a lot.
What I really, really love the Repairman Jack character. I love his philosophy. What inspired him? I read that you had a dream, and that's where it started.
Yeah. I was working on the book that would eventually become Reborn, but it was a totally different book at that time. And I kept running into walls. And so I had this dream about just being chased around a roof by something. And I couldn't get off the roof. And no matter what I did to this thing, it kept coming back. Even if it fell off the roof, it kept coming back. And I woke up with that and I said, oh, I got to use that. But it wasn't going to fit in the book I was writing. And when I look back, you can say, oh, that's a frustration dream. And I was very frustrated with the book I was working on. So I started working backwards and forwards from that scene. And I needed a guy who could survive that scene. And it wasn't me. So that was about the time when the first Bourne books were coming out from Robert Ludlum. I was a big Robert Ludlum fan, and I just read every book as it came out. And so I decided, well, okay, what one of my approaches to writing is to take the tropes and turn them upside down. Mm-hmm. I wrote a story for Gerald Page's Sword and Sorcery. Was the first appearance of Glaken and Rossalam, and Glaken never drew a sword. I had plenty of sorcery, but I decided, well, I'll do a sword and sorcery without any swordplay. And so in this, I decided I'd just do the opposite of Jason Bourne. So I'd have no connection to the CIA or any clandestine organization. He wouldn't be trained in black ops and kung fu and all that sort of stuff. And he would be a guy with no official identity, and he would just be living in the cracks. And it was just supposed to be a one shot and have this guy. And back in 1984, it was a lot easier to do that than it is today. Yeah. There wasn't a camera on every corner. So I also made him a blue collar guy that, you'd have a beer with him, and you could see yourself having a beer with him. And, but by the end, I knew I had a series character, and that someone would want me to do a series, and I had no desire to do a series. I was afraid it would take over my writing career. I already had The Touch plotted out in my head, and Black Wind was taking shape, and I definitely wanted to write those. I didn't want to write more Repairman Jack before I wrote those, and so I left him dying at the end. And it was sort of a litmus test for what you thought of him. If you liked him, then you probably said, oh, he lived. And if you didn't like his approach to society and such, then you might say, "Oh, I hope he died." And that was it. I wasn't going back to him. And I remember my editor, Susan Allison at the time asking me, said, "You really should go back and do another one." I'm just saying, no, 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 no. But then I guess it was in the mid 90s, I got a multi-book contract for medical thrillers. The Select had sold for a huge amount, and so they wanted me to write more medical thrillers. And so I said, well, the money was good, so I said, sure.
Which, for those you don't know, you're a doctor also. So
yeah, actually, I have for 3 more weeks, and then I retire. But I quickly got bored with the medical thrillers, and I still had one left on the contract. And so I had this idea for a high-tech type of thriller, or techie anyway, and it would be perfect for Jack. And so I said, hell with it, I'm going to do a Repairman Jack book. And I had a doctor hire him. So that would be, a medical thriller. And, they weren't fooled for a minute, but they did like the book. And so they published it, and that was Legacies. And then that was really well received. And they said, well, do one more. And I said, okay, I'll do one more. And I did Conspiracies, and I had such fun with it that I said, I'm hooked. All right, I'll commit to a series. And, my big fear had been it would take over my writing career. And guess what? It did for many, many years. There's a total of, I think, 23 books. And that counts the teenage books and the early years crime novels. And then it just got to the point where, I had to end it. So.
Well, speaking of having to end it, you're working on a new Repairman Jack novel, right?
Well, I never said never. And no, an idea came up that was right for him, and so I've written it.
Where's it going to fit in the timeline?
It's between Ground Zero and Fatal Error.
Okay.
It's right around Christmas time there. And the thing is, I would like to do it this way, that when, a new Repairman Jack novel comes to me, I can write it. I just don't have to deliver one every fall. And that's what I was doing. And I was just afraid the quality was going to slip. And just keep doing another book and dragging it out. And we've all seen series where that happens,
Right.
So I don't know when that'll come out, but it still needs a little work, but it's pretty much ready.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
I won't tell you the title because the sales department changes the title.
Okay. All right. As you read the Repairman Jack series, you're a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft, I know. As you read the Repairman Jack series, it kind of slowly starts bending towards that cosmic horror. Was that planned from the beginning with Legacies, for example, when you started the series?
No, it began with Conspiracies.
Okay.
That's when I started connecting it to, I connected Conspiracies to my short story Faces. And that's when I started with the cosmic aspect. I guess that, some of it's horror, some of it's just wonder. I put a lot of that in Wardenclyffe, the recent novella that came out. And the thing is, you can have cosmic horror without being Lovecraftian.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
don't need the mythos to have cosmic horror.
Absolutely. And those are my favorite types of cosmic horror stories, the ones that don't use the Lovecraft mythos.
Well, it's what I find unsettling and disturbing in cosmic horror type of fiction is what I try to use is that things have changed or things aren't what you think they were and the rules have changed and it's like you go into the room and the wall measures 30 feet on the outside and it's 60 feet on the inside. Like that to me, that's a gut clencher. I mean, what the hell is going on?
Right.
And those subtle type of things that things that you thought were rules and you could depend on, you can no longer depend on. And that to me is very upsetting. And I try to put that into the fiction. The other thing is that, and it's the big underlying thing with the Ice trilogy is that we're a sentient sapient race, and the conceit is like the Fermi paradox.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Where where is everybody? And that sapience is really rare. And the bad thing about it is that it attracts attention. And to me, that those three words, it attracts attention, are scary because what attention are we talking about? And the attention is these cosmic entities. I never name anything because I just think there aren't enough of them and they're so big that they don't have names.
Yeah,
And
they're just referred to in your series in the Secret History of the World as the adversary and the ally, but those are just names that we came up with.
yes, those are human because humans like to pigeonhole everything.
Right.
And it's comfortable if you can give it a name and stick it, okay, there, that's the good guy and that's the bad guy.
Except the ally isn't really the good guy. This isn't the fight between good and evil. He's just playing a game, right?
Right. Well, that's what it's all about in the Ice trilogy is that, we're being manipulated and they're playing games with us. The good guy's playing games with us and really doesn't care if one of his little games, an entire civilization gets wiped out. Okay, well, we'll move on to this other civilization over here, and so there's no love there. And that was one of the things that reading Lovecraft as a teenager, that's the thing that got to me. That I was raised a Catholic, and there's that there's the bearded guy up top who's benevolent, looking out for you, and there's the bad guy down below who's trying to tempt you. And in Lovecraft, he didn't even throw it out. He didn't even address it. For him, the universe was basically, if it was indifferent, that was a good day. Most of the time, it was inimical. And I have a trouble with that word. But anyway, an enemy.
Yeah.
And to me, as a teenager, that made more sense. And so that materialism that he injected into everything, that made more sense to me. And it started changing my whole worldview. And I was a good Catholic, and then I quickly, questioned myself out of the church. And, it's, so he had a profound effect on my view. Not that he changed it, but that he put forth things that other people had been putting forth, but it was my first exposure to them, and so in a sense I have to credit him with it, even though those ideas weren't original with him.
I think even Stephen Hawking before he died, one of the things he said was he wasn't sure it was a good idea for us to be looking for aliens. He didn't want to attract their attention.
Well, yes, that's it. It attracts attention. Yeah, but here you are waving your flag, saying, "Hey, look at me!" Come.
Yeah. Assuming they're benevolent,
Well, what was it? I think it was him who said, "But just think, how Europeans
Yes, absolutely.
engaging with the Native Americans. Just think of what it did to them."
Right.
And that's a great analogy, because that's very likely what it would be.
So we see your answer to Fermi's paradox in the Repairman Jack series and the Secret History of the World, but what is that? What you feel the solution to Fermi's paradox is? That there are intelligences that have evolved for millions of years before we did, and we probably don't want to attract their attention.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fermi's paradox is that there's all these billions of stars. A lot of them are with planets, and a lot of them are a lot older than us.
Right.
Why hasn't anybody contacted us? Why haven't we heard any signals? I mean, there are probably explanations for that, but it may also be that a lot of sapient civilizations wiped themselves out,
Right.
or are wiped out by some sort of cataclysm. There's all sorts of rocks flying around out there,
Yeah, that's one of the filters before reaching interstellar travel. One of the things they have to get through, not destroying themselves or the planet destroying them. And it just maybe, like you said, that sentience is very rare. Maybe there's life all over the galaxy, but most of it's not intelligent.
Well, that's it. Not intelligent enough to build a civilization.
Right.
You go beyond sentience into sapience, and sapient cultures build civilizations.
I'm sure I'm not the first to say this to you, but Repairman Jack would make a great, say, Netflix series or Hulu series. Do you agree?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Beacon Films has the property. They bought it. They exercised their option to buy it once after it was. They optioned it back in the 90s. And they've been working on it. One of the head of production said to me, he said, we could get it on Epic or Hulu tomorrow. So we don't want that. We want it either on a network, or we want it on Netflix or Amazon, but we want a big platform for it. And they've invested a lot in scripts for the theatrical movie. That's never going to happen. And there's been a lot of good talent associated with this project, and they've come and gone. And right now, they've got a very iconic figure who is going to act as showrunner, but they've got to make the pitches to Netflix and places like that, and Netflix has got to agree to it. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm glad at least that things are heading in that direction. Just as a fan, I don't think Repairman Jack lends himself to a movie. He lends himself more to a Netflix type series.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the thing is, from the 90s until just a few years ago, the streaming 10-hour series didn't exist.
Right.
And for something like Repairman Jack, I mean, there's so many books, there are so many long story arcs, that they can, and short story arcs that, one season's story arc can be completed while the bigger one is flowing behind it. It's perfect for it, but it's a matter of getting the right people involved.
Well, I know that Rick and Pete probably have some questions for you. I want to ask a couple more just real quick. One of the Lovecraft Easing listeners by the name of Andy King wants to know about the urban legend about the Keep soundtrack and wants to know if you really saw the Keep soundtrack on LP somewhere.
I did. I swear I saw it in a Sam Goodies in Toms River, New Jersey. Either that or in the Eatontown Mall. And I remember pulling it out and looking at it and saying, you know, I just thought it was the wrong music for the movie. And I know I'm in a minority there, and that's sacrilege for a lot of TD fans. But I was so angry at that point that I just put it back and said, you know, I don't want to listen to that. And well, you asked me what label it was. I didn't notice any of that stuff, but I do remember picking it up, and my wife was with me, and even she said, "You don't want that, do you?" I said, "No, you're right. I don't." So,
well, it is sort of an urban legend, and I found that out today thanks to Andy King. So there you go. He's a big Tangerine Dream fan, and he wanted to know that. So,
I'm sorry, Andy, if I offended you, but
no. I'm just loving the description on Amazon to Ephemerata 2, if I'm even saying that right, version 2.0. Okay. Did you write this? I'm guessing you did. F. Paul Wilson sold his first story in 1970. He's been writing ever since. And then Wilson collects nearly 160,000 words here. Some of it just, some of it stringent, some of it moving, some of it infuriating, some of it autobiographical, and some of it just plain idiotic.
Yeah, that's me.
What does he think of the JFK assassination? What did he say or not say in his introduction to the first volume of Neil Gaiman's collected The Sandman that caused it to be replaced? What was his reaction to reading Salem's Lot? What was he paid for his contribution to Books to Die For? I don't even know what the hell this says. The logical response is, who cares? But if you enjoy his fiction, you might find the answers to all these burning questions and more. And you've put this as a Kindle only, so you can keep updating it, and people, when it's updated, people can reload it from
Yeah,
Amazon.
I'm updating it next month. There's a couple of things that, you know, when you write some of these pieces, they have a certain window of exclusivity, and so I have to wait for that window to close, and then I can publish it. So there's a couple of things that will be ready to go next month, and I'm just going to add them in and put it back up there. It's a fun, it's a good bathroom book, you know. I mean,
A good bathroom book.
Well, I mean, you're talking about things that are 1,000, 1,500 words long. You know?
Well, for those interested, it's $3.99, so it's priced pretty low, and it's also available on Kindle Unlimited if you're a member of Kindle Unlimited, so you can borrow it from there. So, Rick, I know you have some questions for Paul. You're still muted there, but there you go.
I got it. Just a question. When you were talking, Paul, about the cosmic elements in Repairman Jack, I think you really began to introduce them in the tomb when you had the little reference to the Rakosh being created by the old ones.
Oh, you know, maybe I did. I'd forgotten. You have a better memory for my stuff than I do. Yeah, I don't know if they were the same old ones, you know.
That was before you had the cosmic forces became the other.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah. I had a sort of again, I wanted to keep that separate from the keep, so that I had no intention of linking them at that time. They were both standalone books in my mind.
In Wardenclyffe, you utilize a secret society you used before, the Septimus Order. Can you just talk about them a little bit?
They've been very handy for me. They're left over from the First Age. The structure of it, not the people, and they're sort of like Masons who go back way before Mesopotamia, and but their idea has been to pave the way for Rosaline's return and his ascent as the otherness takes, wrests this planet from the control of the rather indifferent party and makes a living hell out of the planet. So their purpose has been to sow chaos and to just make things more comfortable. Most of the time, in modern times, they've been unaware that, like during Wardenclyffe, which is 1903 to 1906, they're unaware that Rosalind at that point is locked up in the keep, and he's totally incommunicado and out of commission. They don't know where he is, but they have no idea that he has no idea what they're doing. There's a bit of irony there. So they're sowing discord for a guy who is out of touch.
You had
Go ahead.
You had a family that's dominant in that secret society called the Drexler family.
Yes.
And you've had 3 generations of them, one in modern times, one in World War II, one in the early 1900s. And you made reference to the father of the earliest one. Are you going to do a short story about him?
Well, I mean, there's Rudolph in Wardenclyffe, and his son is Ernst, the first Ernst, who appears in Arians and Absinthe, and in a sense sort of saves Hitler's life because he thinks the future will be much more entertaining with Hitler in it. And then there's Ernst II, who is Jack's nemesis. So there's been a story about each of the 3 of them.
But you mentioned I think that the father of the Drexler in Wardenclyffe.
Well, him I haven't really given much attention to. I may just have, just a toss-off mention.
So that may end up being a setup, but it wasn't your intention to do that. You've made Sherlock Holmes now part of the secret history of the world. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I did that with great. Leslie Klinger asked me for a Sherlock Holmes story for one of his anthologies, and I immediately, I haven't been doing short stories, but I said, here's a chance to play, with Sherlock Holmes. So I really couldn't resist. The initial impulse was to have him meet with Fu Manchu, but that's been done. Clay Van Ash did that, and I didn't really want to, get involved with that. But Madame de Medici, another Sax Rohmer character. Yeah, she's in the wings, and I figured, well, she could be the femme fatale of this. So, in a sense, you know, that she involved with Sherlock Holmes, and then she's involved in the new Repairman Jack book. It sort of mixes it together. I'm not terribly comfortable with trying to drag Sherlock Holmes into the secret history, but I think the Sherlock Holmes story will probably stay on the periphery.
Let me just look at my notes for a minute. Oh, you, I think it was an implant, used character names from The Shadow for characters. There was a novel you wrote. We had a Senator Vincent and this.
Oh, maybe I tend to do that. In the new Repairman Jack book, there's a building on Central Park West called the Allard, and there's a guy up there in the penthouse named Burbank. But I don't make any direct references to the Shadow. But it's just something that's kind of fun for people like you who will read it and get a little kick out of it.
It's an homage.
Yes. I'm a big Shadow fan, so it was sort of irresistible.
Rick and Pete are exactly those types of readers.
Love that stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to Pete.
Oh, geez. So we have heard immensely your feelings on the movie The Keep, but artist named Matt Smith did it as a comic book series.
Yes.
Was that better for you?
Oh yeah, that was my movie script. I scripted the comic, and that's how I would have liked to have seen the movie.
Well, there you go.
There's a comic? I didn't know this.
Yeah, IDW did it years ago. They actually published a graphic novel of it, and they even did a hardcover version. That
everybody knows what we're getting Mike for his birthday.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming up. 4 more months. Mark your calendar.
So you were happy with that? They used your script, and the artwork was decent, and
yeah, I mean, he did an expressionistic type of artwork that I think worked very well. It had a Mike Mignola look to it, but I thought that worked very well.
So, as a book collector, well, before I go there, how did you come to work with Pulp House, Christine Catherine Rush?
She contacted me, and said, we're doing a series of novellas. Do you have anything? And she also said, we'd like to do, one of those author monthly
right
books on you. So we had met at conventions, and so I happened to be working on Midnight Mask for the HWA anthology Under the Fang. And I checked with Rick McCammon, and I said, this will be a very limited edition, just like 1,000 copies or something like that. So it's not going to, and Under the Fang is going to be a paperback original. So we're talking about 2 entirely different audiences. Do you mind if I give her first shot at it? And he said, no, it's fine. So we did, and she did a a very nice version. But when Pocketbooks found out, they said, no way, it has to be original. It can't have appeared anywhere else. And so it didn't appear in Under the Fang.
Oh, wow.
Hey, just real quick, getting back to the comic, who was the artist?
Matt Smith.
Matthew Dow Smith.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
He's been doing a lot of Doctor Who lately and some other things. X-Files.
All right, yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
So, I earlier before we started, I brought this up. I found this a couple of weeks ago. I live for finding this stuff. This is
Barons and others in hardcover for those listening later.
Yeah, I live for finding this stuff because it really speaks to me. It just comes out. But what do you consider some of your more difficult pieces to find?
Oh, well, the rarest is the special hardcover edition that Hodder and Stoughton did of The Touch. That was just the publisher liked the book so much that he did a very beautiful limited edition only for the editors of Hodder and Stoughton. And so, and for me.
Okay.
So I don't know. Are there 10, 20 copies? And it's beautifully done. Beautiful book. That would be the rarest. Of course, the Whispers edition of the Tomb is the printer ran out of acid-free paper, so Stu got shorted on his print run, and so.
Oh wow, that's Stuart David Schiff.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So so that one goes for ridiculous prices on eBay and such. Gee, I don't know. There are some arcs from Dark Harvest that are hard to find. Some people really like arcs. Yeah, I think those two are probably the hardest to find.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't you have a short story that's part of the secret history of the world that's very rare to find?
What? I'm sorry?
Don't you have a short story that's part of the secret history of the world that only came out for a special anthology?
Gee, I don't know. I lose track of what I write and where it appears.
Well, you mentioned once that you were considering coming out with a Kindle edition of all your Secret History of the World stories.
Yes, I that still might happen. I've just been so busy with other things that, and I keep getting more and more. It's what do you include and what don't you include? Do I include Wardenclyffe? I mean, that's like 40,000 words. In an ebook, it doesn't matter. But if you ever want to put it in between covers, then it becomes huge. It has to be. You have to be start talking about a multi-volume set. I don't know. It's something that might happen. I would love for it to happen, but it has to be sometime after I stop writing. Because
I think you had one short story which I haven't read in a very limited anthology about which had a medical theme.
You probably know this about Rick, Paul. He remembers almost everything.
Yeah,
I know. I've read a number of his reference books, and they are mind-boggling in the detail.
Matt keeps asking me to write a concordance to the stuff I write, and I'm like, no, I'm saving that for Rick.
You're just lazy.
Yeah, Matthew Carpenter has deigned to join us. So, hey.
Oh. Right. So,
questions, Pete?
yeah. So, Mr. Wilson, I'm going to ask you two very pointed questions.
Oh, boy.
What's the thing you're most proud of having written? And what's the thing you're most ashamed of having written?
Ashamed.
Oh, well,
So
definitely, I think Black Wind is the best thing I've ever written.
Okay.
I think the characters and the sweep and the story are, the best thing I've ever done. Things I'm ashamed of written. Well, I mean, some of my early science fiction to me.
Dynasty Town World, Night.
No, before that, back in the 70s. Some of the short stories I sold to Campbell they're very didactic, and even in my first collection, Soft and Others, I left them out.
Wow.
I even put it in the introduction that I did not want to inflict them on readers again. So, yeah, Campbell was buying some stuff from me that I was absolutely delighted to sell him. But, later on when I looked at them, I was saying, this isn't such good stuff. I was learning to write in public, and it's, I don't know. I'm very grateful for him because he was the only editor who would respond to me and tell me, why he was rejecting my story. So that was a tremendous help because I had never taken a writing course. And so I had to depend on the kindness of strangers, so to speak. And most editors just sent a pre-printed rejection slip, but he actually would start telling me why. So I revere him for that. He had his faults, but to me, he was my mentor.
Tim or Matt, do you guys have any questions for Paul before we let him go? By your silence, I presume there's none. Well, pop in if I'm wrong, but just a couple quick questions from me, Paul, before we let you go. In an interview with Cat After Dark, name of a website, I believe, you were asked about advice for writers, and I thought you gave basically two short tips that I thought was one of the most common sense tips for writing that I've ever heard. Keep writing, and avoid tinkering when you're writing, and avoid envy. Can you talk about those two for a sec?
Well, the first is to achieve and maintain narrative momentum. That if you're constantly going back and tinkering with the sentences and the prose in general, you're losing that momentum. The idea, I call it the vomit draft. You just spew it out on the page and get the story down, and then you can always fix it. You can't fix something if it isn't there.
Right.
So you got to get it there on the paper, then you can fix it. The envy is, I've seen it. I'm a habitual compulsive convention goer. I love to meet readers, and I love to hang with other writers. But a lot of times I see envy, and so and so got a big advance, or so and so sold the movie rights, or this one's going to television, and it says, I don't know who he knows or how he does it, but he isn't that good, and I just don't understand it. I just don't know how he gets these breaks. And the thing is, it doesn't matter how he's getting them. He's getting them. And just because you're not, don't hold it against him. I mean, you can maybe hold it against yourself, and and push yourself to do something different or better. But the thing is, it's you can't blame a guy for his success. You have to, and I always look at it. I've had some really nice successes, and I don't know if people have been grumbling behind my back or not, but I don't care. But the thing is, I hear other people doing it, and it's one of those things where I say, I'm not going to be that person. And if somebody gets a good break, more power to them. And,
writing is not a zero-sum game.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they may be hitting notes that you aren't. And so either you have to be happy that with what you're putting out, you're saying, this is what I want to write. And if it doesn't go to TV, so be it. Or if it doesn't get a movie made, so be it. But this is what I want to write. And the other person's writing something that gets attention from the producers and stuff. Okay, but that's not a knock on you, and so you shouldn't be knocking him. It's just the way things work, and just be happy for him. Somebody's making money,
Right.
And you might be next.
Right. Well, Paul, thanks for coming on and talking to us today. I really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure. I love you guys.
Yeah, we're real fond of you. So thank you very much. I think you said you were going to dinner next, right? Or having dinner next.
Yes.
So enjoy your dinner.
7:00 here.
All right. All you got to do is close your browser and it'll kick you out.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Good night, Paul.
Great to hear from you, Paul.
Good seeing you again.
Ah,
All right. He's so great to talk with. Hearing it.
he's such a nice guy. When I told Mandy we were going to have Paul Wilson tonight, she was like, "What?"
So have you guys seen the trailer for this new Jake Gyllenhaal movie, Velvet Buzzsaw?
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, I did.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen anything about
This
it.
has to do something weird with paintings.
Yeah, it looks really interesting.
Paintings coming to life or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you just have to watch the trailer. Describing it, it doesn't really give it its due, but it's pretty interesting. A little bit of shades of Pickman's Model, maybe. I don't know.
While we're talking about film, has anybody else watched the 3 anime Godzilla films?
And would you
I-
admit it?
I have.
Admit it if you had.
Godzilla and I are not friends, so I don't really like him.
There was this tiny little bit in the 3rd one where they were talking about how Ghidorah was from another dimension, and that's it, the laws that didn't apply. It's like, oh, they're going Lovecraftian, and then the plot just vanished. Not the plot, that plot, but like the whole plot of the whole series just disappeared. And Tim's just nodding his head. You can turn your mic on. You can agree.
I know.
with me.
I completely agree.
I'm like, I think these 3 films were made by people who don't like Godzilla films. And I'm just like, I don't understand. But anyway,
But they're making Godzilla Lovecraftian sort of in the King of the Monsters movie.
yeah, but yeah. I'm just saying that in this 3rd anime, there was like a 30-second blurb about Ghidorah as an extraterrestrial, existential, trans-dimensional monster, and then everything just vanished. And when I say everything just vanished, I mean like dialogue, plot, some semblance of relationship to anything that had to do with Godzilla. There was a lot of talking heads, and words were coming out of their mouth. I'm not sure that they were coherent sentences, and I had both.
Just describe this show.
I had both the English dub and the subtext on. So I was like, anyway. I'm done.
All right, this is an actual article on CNN. It's in November, but I'm behind. My cat's going crazy. What are you doing, Charlie? All right, this is an actual CNN article. As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by my cat. From November. As you guys know, we weren't here in December. Here's the here's the headline: "Dimming the sun: the answer to global warming."
Yes. I mean, it's a rather simple task. We've done it before.
Well, okay, this reminds me of that story where you have like the three nations are talking about their space program, and the United States sends up and says, "We will land on the moon," and the Russian sends up and says, "No kidding, we will land on Mars." And then the other third nameless nation lands up, "We'll land on the sun." They look at him and say, "Are you nuts?" He says, "Well, it's too hot. You'll burn up. We'll show you. We'll land at night."
Good night. Scientists are proposing an ingenious, I love the ingenious word thrown in here, but as yet unproven way.
When you say ingenious, you mean evil genius.
Yeah. Yeah. I am not the only one with a cat on his lap.
Well, they say they're going to spray sulfate particles into the air.
Right.
So although it will be cooler, we'll be breathing sulfuric acid, I guess. It's a great idea.
Yeah. So I guess we don't get a vote on this, but there it is. It's an actual CNN article. Did you guys see the CW crossover? The Flash. I know you didn't, Matt. The Flash.
No.
Rick,
No.
did you?
I did not.
Wow. Now I can't talk about it.
Nope, you can't.
Well, next Crisis on Infinite Earths is the crossover for next year.
Yeah, I know that. I know they're setting up the Psycho Pirate.
I am getting less and less interested. And they don't seem to like Superman anymore. I really can't say why, I guess. It's a minor sort of spoiler, but I'll avoid it anyway. Yeah, it's near the end. So I can't talk about it because you guys haven't seen it.
No.
Have you guys seen Bandersnatch?
I may be able to watch Bandersnatch on my phone or on my laptop. Whenever I decide that I want to do that.
Anybody else? Well, there is now a lawsuit from Choose Your Own Adventure. Let me pull this up.
Oh, I did watch Bandersnatch. I watched it with my two sons. We thoroughly enjoyed it. We enjoyed going back, and it was actually, can I just say, before you get into what you're saying, it's like, it was seamlessly edited. You couldn't tell.
It did not, there was no pause, really.
It was really well done, and it was kind of fun that you could go back and sort of change the direction that you went in. I ended up, I'm not saying it was not really a happy movie, but we thoroughly enjoyed going around and there's this one scene where they ask you, is there enough action in this movie? And you say no, and you can make a kung fu fight happen. It was really a blast because the choice was no action or fuck yeah. And so my two sons said, fuck yeah.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
It was. Did you see that part?
Not everybody was kung fu fighting.
I actually very much enjoyed it. I was surprised.
Well, I'm not saying it's bad or anything. I've watched / played it a little. The publisher of the Choose Your Own Adventure book series, I'm reading from The Verge, is suing Netflix over its interactive Black Mirror episode Bandersnatch. Choose Co. filed its lawsuit against Netflix today in a Vermont court. This is a few days ago, accusing Netflix of willingly infringing on the Choose Your Own Adventure trademark and claiming that the episode is so dark it will tarnish the book's reputation.
Do they have a leg to stand on?
I don't know. On the one hand, I think I've heard one of the characters refers to choose your own adventure in the movie, but I don't know if that's enough. I mean, we're talking about an idea. You know, you can't really trademark an idea. What do you think, Pete? Good.
I don't know, Mike. Are there enough different companies out there that made like choose your own adventure type of books?
Sure,
So-
there's others. Yeah.
Choose Your Own Adventures is published by Bantam Books, was one of the most popular children's series during the 1980s and 90s. It's based on a concept by Edward Packard and originally published by Constant Capels and R.A. Montgomery's Vermont Crossroad Press as the Adventures of You series, starting with Packard's Sugarcane Island in 1976.
I know I enjoyed reading them as a kid in the 80s. But, what about interactive fiction? Kind of the same concept too, isn't it?
Well,
I mean, I guess we'll find out.
I just don't know how that. I don't know that they've got a basis unless they're like infringing on the very use of the name.
Well, I think I read in one of the articles that one of the characters does use the phrase choose your own adventure, but I don't know if that's enough. And I don't know in what context it was used.
It didn't stand out to me. I don't remember that particular phrase.
Tweet from Netflix. Can't believe I have to say this, but please do not hurt yourself with the Bird Box Challenge.
If you choose to remove yourself from the gene pool,
Why does it need a warning?
are there directions printed on your toothpick?
That's right up there with coffee is hot.
Well, okay, but don't go to that because that's actually a pretty decent thing. But yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, you're right. But yeah. Okay. So one teenager, 17, she crashed her car driving, doing the Bird Box Challenge, and I think the cop said with predictable results.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There is, those are parents that should be proud.
Okay. Here's what I got next. If I can
You
pull
got
it
something
up.
next?
Got something next. Geek.com, 12 most anticipated horror films of 2019.
I will guarantee you that none of those films will be the highly anticipated movies that we all enjoyed in December of next year.
I read that list, I think.
First one they have is Pet Sematary. So, second one they have is Us, which, look, I didn't find, it's from Jordan Peele. I didn't find Get Out as exciting as I guess the rest of the world did. I mean, it was okay. But I'm really kind of psyched about this movie because I guess it's a doppelganger movie. What happens when an ordinary family takes a summer trip only to find out they are being replaced by deranged doppelgangers?
Yeah, I saw the preview for that yesterday. So
I really like doppelganger stories. So, you saw the trailer?
Yeah, it's on Apple Trailers.
How was it?
It looks interesting. We'll see.
Here's another one I am actually looking forward to, Brightburn.
That does look interesting.
Brightburn is the premise that what if Batman was right about Superman initially? And what if Superman came to Earth, somebody with Superman's powers, came to Earth and didn't take to the human ways of living and simply started killing?
Yeah.
This looks great. And man, did you see the trailer? it's copying the scenes of some of the Man of Steel scenes in the first trailer of Man of Steel.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just putting it right out there.
Yeah.
I guess you're gonna watch this Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yes, but I wouldn't call it a horror film.
Yeah. Not looking forward to Child's Play.
No.
Brightburn's. Oh, wait, we have dates. Brightburn's May 24th, and Us is March 15th. Those are the ones I'm looking at. No on Child's Play. The New Mutants, August 2nd. Rick, you know about
That has been getting a bad buzz.
really?
A lot of reshoots.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that and like maybe 6 months ago, and I was like, "What movie is this? What movie is this? What movie is this?" And it's like, because it's presented as a horror movie, and then at the end it's like New Mutants, and I'm like, "Oh, this is completely the wrong direction to go with this."
It's mutants being experimented upon in some horror hospital.
Yeah.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, August 9. You know, I may pretend to be an adult, but I'm gonna really probably like this movie, or at least I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, given the success of the Goosebumps movies, it's not surprising that this stuff was made.
Guillermo del Toro is the producer, I guess.
Yeah, he has a history with that.
It Chapter 2. Are you guys looking forward to that?
I know how it ends.
Oh, you've read the book.
I hadn't seen the television movie.
September the 6th. So that's not coming out for a while. Are You Afraid of the Dark? October 11th. I am not one of these. Fans of the 90s Nickelodeon television series can jump for joy. Okay, we'll just cross that off the list.
With Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I actually hope they keep some of the visuals of Stephen Gamel's artwork in the film because they were disturbing for especially children.
Oh yeah.
That was Alvin Schwartz and Stephen Gamel, if I'm pronouncing that last name correctly.
Zombieland 2?
Hey, wait, about that Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, is that a movie or is that a web series?
That's going to be a movie.
Okay, because all right, because I saw the trailer for a web series. Is it the same mess thing?
I don't know.
I do not know. Yeah. Who's the kid who played Lex Luthor? Somebody?
Jesse Eisenberg?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's in this Zombieland 2, I guess, and so is man, I'm really blanking on names today.
Is Woody Harrelson back?
Woody Harrelson, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they'd have to be like there are only two people alive.
That was a fun movie. I liked Zombieland 1. It was entertaining.
I never saw it.
It's if you don't like zombie flicks, it's a good zombie flick for people who don't like zombie flicks.
I don't like zombie flicks.
It was. I thought it was very entertaining. There was quite a bit of humor in it.
It's a zombie. Yeah, it's a zombie comedy.
Kelly told me to watch that one, the one on the train. What was the name of that one?
Train to Busan.
Train to Busan, yeah. And that I would like that, even though I don't like zombie movies. And no, I did not like Train to Busan. So, that's how much I hate zombie movies.
Girl with All the Gifts was really good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Three from Hell. I don't know what that is. Depraved. All we know so far is that our field surgeon lead is suffering from PTSD. I hate it when people misuse PTSD, and so does Ben. Ben's given talks on this. Benjamin Handelman, I think. I wish he was here to comment on this. But anyway, starts making a creation out of human body parts and brings them to life. So I don't know.
What movie is this?
It's called Depraved.
If I wasn't interested before, I'm reanimated now.
Okay. Did you guys see the Titans finale? Because I haven't.
What's Titans? Yeah, I know what Titans is, but no, I don't watch it. So
Did you like the Titans finale, Rick?
I did not watch it either.
Is it like where Kronos and Atlas get in a fight?
that's a very, very literate reference, Matt. I'm really, really proud of you.
Yeah, Greek mythology. It involves Batman. It involves. I know what the plot is. I know what the twist is. I haven't seen it though.
Yeah.
Kelly, we talked about it earlier. Kelly said he liked it, and I think Ben wanted to burn it.
Well, we talked about the Bird Box challenge. Did you guys like Bird Box? Did you watch the movie?
I did. I enjoyed Bird Box. I'm not so sure it's scary. It's a good mainstream horror flick. I don't know that it breaks new ground. So, but I do like the idea that they did not show the monster.
Well, yeah. I don't know. That she played one horrible mother. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well,
Didn't you warn us off against watching Bird Box?
Me?
Yeah. What was that movie you told us not to watch if you lost 5 hours of your life?
Oh, that wasn't Bird Box.
Oh, okay.
I remember saying that, but I don't remember what movie it was.
Okay, I got confused with something else. Okay.
If it was 5 hours, then it was probably.
No, it was that series about. It was Welcome Home. Was that it? About the Vietnam veteran or the Desert Storm veterans coming over and being treated in a psychology institute.
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
You're the one who told me about it. And then I started to watch it, and then you said it sucks. Now I'm in limbo.
This. Okay, this could be the best news ever of all time. Comixology Unlimited. Comixology is for those who don't know, you can read comics digitally on your Kindle and so forth. There's a Comixology Unlimited, which is kind of similar to Kindle Unlimited. Until now, it's been a lot of independent titles for the most part. And then I see the other day on the homepage that a bunch of DC titles are on there. And I mean some good ones too. And so I signed up for the trial version of Kindle Unlimited. I don't remember if it's a month or 3 months. But anyway.
Comixology is $6 a month unlimited.
Yeah, $5.99. It's
I don't know
not
you can buy a comic book for that price anymore.
Well, I tell Ben about this. He's like, I just spent $50 on DC Comics. So anyway, for those of you into Comixology, that's the best news ever. Maybe they have Marvel stuff too. I don't know. Okay, I think that's all I have to talk about. What about you guys?
I just want to mention, this is for people who may be interested. There's an online university called Signum University. And about 5 or 6 years ago, they did an online course about Lovecraft. And they're doing it again, more or less. I think the instructor is the same. They're going to talk about cosmicism and Lovecraft. The title of the course is The Literary Copernicus. It's to start the 14th, I guess, which is Monday. You can sign up if you want for credit, if you're one of those people working on an MFA. You can sign up to audit and participate in a discussion group, but you can also do an anytime audit where you don't go on a discussion group, but you have access to the class notes and the online lectures. So I'm going to put the link up just in case anybody might be interested. It's So it's not anybody who's like a well-known author or speaker in our little community, but it doesn't mean that she's not a well-informed scholar of the subject.
Who is it?
Gosh, I forget her name.
Amy Sturgis?
What's that?
Is it Amy Sturgis?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we've had her on the show.
She's great.
She's a big fan. She's a big fan of my work.
Oh, she's an idiot then. No, I'm just. All right. So at any rate, Amy Sturgis is the lead professor, and there are two other people leading the discussion groups.
And she's a very nice person as well. So.
Well, great. Okay, so if you are interested, I'm going to post a link. You will have to put out a little bit of money, but for the anytime audit, it's not very expensive.
For those who don't know, when Matt says post a link, he means to the Lovecraft Easing message board, which is a group on Facebook. So just go to Facebook if you're not a member and search for Lovecraft Easing message board and click the join button or whatever it is. I know what I wanted to ask Rick. Did you watch the New Year's Day Doctor Who?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that if you hadn't asked me. Yes, and I did like it.
Okay, no, I've not seen it. No,
I thought it was good use of the Daleks, and I know there are legitimate criticisms of the series, but I'm listening to some of these reviews of the year-end special, and it's like they're inventing things because they now enjoy trashing the series. Like one of the complaints I heard was the Daleks killed too many white males, and this is part of a feminist agenda.
what?
The Daleks always kill white males.
Yeah, I don't think there were. Yeah,
Go back to Peter Cushing movies if you don't believe me. You know, every Doctor, the majority of victims are white males.
Yeah, I did not enjoy the season. We've talked about this, but yeah, I would classify that as a legitimate criticism.
They had a good it only had one Dalek in it, but the Dalek worked. They did the Dalek well. There were some other complaints about the companions, and some of that is, that depends on who you are. Some of it, I mean, is legitimate in how they did in the series. I think they made a mistake in having 3 companions this year.
Yeah. So I've watched like pretty much the first half of the season, and then I stopped because I was really bored. Do I need to watch the rest of those, or can I just jump to the New Year's Day?
you can jump to the New Year's Day.
I would say you may want to see the last one because it ties in to the first one.
Tim,
number 11. Tim Shaw returns.
Every Doctor Who fan in the world who's named Tim Shaw is going, "What the hell? what did I do?" Okay, so you're saying watch the last one in the series, and then watch the New Year's.
Yeah.
I don't understand the move from Christmas to New Year's. Does anyone have an explanation? Or
well, the episode really didn't have a Christmas theme, I'll tell you that.
It did.
New Year's.
It was more, Daleks going wild.
It was part of the overall war on Christmas that we keep fighting.
That may be true.
Yeah, I'm an atheist and I enjoy Christmas.
Okay, well,
Christmas to me, I do not take offense.
Look, my favorite Mexican general was Santa Anna. I like Christmas too, so
The only other things I have is I didn't know if you guys have seen Into the Spider-Verse yet. I have.
Oh, wonderful! Gosh, it was great. Wasn't it fun?
It was fun. There is something we need to talk about. I'll be right back. Oh.
Did you watch it, Mike?
Logan wants to see it, but for obvious reasons, we've not been able to get there yet.
I really want to see it, but I'll probably wait for it to become available.
I liked it so much more than any of the live-action / CGI superhero movies I've seen in the last few years. The script was on point. the characterizations, the art, the animation. My son Sam is really interested in animation. He thought it was spectacular.
There are critics who have rated it higher than Infinity War.
Yeah,
It was wonderful.
Really?
Yeah, very fun, Mike.
Yeah, I want to take him. It'll cheer him up for obvious reasons. We've not been able to get out there yet. I hope that we can this week because he wants to see it in the theater. Pete, what did you have?
All right, so 2 things.
Yeah.
First, I got my contributor copy of Transmission from Punktown.
Awesome.
Good.
You know, I signed up for the limited edition, so I'll get mine by 2022.
Transmissions from Punktown. Punktown is a Jeffrey Thomas creation. So
Yes. So yeah, I'm pretty cool and happy to see this thing.
yeah.
And, it's a fat book. So yeah, really nice. And the second thing I'm going to talk about is that Nightland Quarterly number 15, the Japanese journal of Lovecraftian horror. I almost Lovecraftian horror. They do other stuff too. Has a reprint story of mine, Operation Starfish.
Oh, that's great.
So,
You know, I used to have a column for that for like the first 6 or 7 issues of the magazine. Then they went out of press for a while, and then they dumped me like an old shoe.
so yeah, apparently I'm big in Japan.
Can you figure out where your story is?
Yeah, well, because they actually mark it for me, and then in the only bits of English that are in the they say, you know, what the original story title is.
Okay.
So, yeah. And the only other thing I'm going to say before we go is that, I kind of gushed on Mallory O'Mara's Lady from the Black Lagoon last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. There's something in the book that was revealed that I took advantage of. And when we interview her in March, I think, I'll show it to everybody in the world. So,
I think it's going to be released in February, right?
whenever. Yeah. It's, yeah.
I thought you knew everything about this book. You don't know release?
I don't have the book right next to me.
But surely with your memory, with your steel trap of a mind.
No. No. I've had to take all the lyrics to American Pie and throw them out the window. It's just beyond. Those little details don't matter to me anymore. They can be looked up.
And I just want to remind everybody that the new True Detective starts this evening.
Yeah.
Oh, good news. Give me something to do.
And it's gotten good reviews. I don't know if it's going to be Carcosa revisited or whatever, but so far the reviews have been very good on this one.
Elements or not. So,
Hearing that made me think of Joe. So,
yeah.
And thinking of Joe, I remember that radio show called Suspense.
Yeah.
They have a pretty entertaining adaptation of In the Court of the Dragon by Robert W. Chambers.
Oh, nice.
You have to find, if you look for Suspense.
You talking about the old Suspense or the new Suspense?
The new Suspense.
From a couple years ago. Okay.
Which is something Blue Something Productions. There are about 6 websites which have a whole slew of episodes. But what's annoying me is I went into IMDb, treats it as a TV show incorrectly. They list all the episodes. And I'm just trying to figure out where can you find the episodes that aren't normally posted. It doesn't look like you can buy it because they have like adaptations of The Night Ocean.
Night Ocean.
By Barlow.
Oh my god!
I like to see how they do that as a radio play, and other. There's also a very entertaining. If you see an episode called "A Very Suspenseful Christmas," listen to it. It's Lovecraftian, big time.
Okay.
Okay, I knew I had this on the website. I've got free to listen to. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them, and they're all Lovecraftian. I don't see the Night Ocean. But anyway,
No, they did that since then, but I haven't been able to find where that's posted.
I'll put a link to that anyway on the message board. So yeah, I've got to listen to that Night Ocean one then.
But I'm just saying I wasn't able to find it an online.
Okay, if anybody out there listening finds it, email us lovecrafteasing@gmail.com. If you like the show, email us at lovecrafteasing@gmail.com.
If you hate the show, email us at
PR. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the support lately, and thanks especially to the Patreons who keep me going. For those who don't know, you can also support me monetarily without, without a penny from you. If you use Amazon Associates, if you go to the Lovecraft Easing website, lovecrafteasing.com, and you click on Amazon Portal, one of the tabs there, one of the choices there at the top, it explains it. So it's really easy. You just kind of go to that page instead of the regular Amazon page, and I'll get a bit of a little bit of money when you buy things on Amazon. It doesn't have to be books; it can be anything. So,
just to insert, Suspense is Blue Hours Production, and if you Google that, you'll find about 10 websites which have a whole slew of dramas.
okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Everyone, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.